and hello chaps. Hilly returning for what is at the moment proof in a series of unpopular videos. Chortle. I think we'll do what we did yesterday, the first of 3 videos dealing with each individual Bond films. I think I'm going to do advance warning. I think I'm going to do the Daltons as one video, and we'll, at this rate, I think I might be at the end of the series by the end of Tuesday, maybe Monday. Lockdown being what it is, chaps, so I hope you're dealing with it reasonably well. And as I say, if you haven't already, the forum is rather quiet at the moment. bondandbeyond.4emotion.com. Tell us Hilly sent you. Moonraker's 40th anniversary was last year, and we had a rather in-depth discussion as best we can. Your favourite scenes, your favourite whatnot, favourite lines and all the rest of it. And I already watched it about a month at the start, just before lockdown started, so I'll rewatch it again because it's a couple of hours of fluff. And that's the trouble with Moonraker, it's not really... It's an odd film, I think, because it's obviously famous for the one where Bond goes into space. And there's no fault of his, really, I suppose. The book was written around about 1954, set wholly in England. Indeed, a contemporary review, some chap apparently wrote into the Times or something, we want to be taken out of ourselves, not a beach in Kent. But that's what I like about the book, I might add, is the fact that it's a fairly contained structure, geographically anyway, and it's got some very good moments in it. Unfortunately, come 1978, say, after the Spy Perfume, Star Wars was an utter phenomenon, bigger than Bond in a way, and everyone was jumping on the bandwagon, including Star Trek, which came out the same year as Moonraker. The Black Hole was the same year as well, also John Barry's score, and yet Bond felt the need to compete with it, really, much like in recent decade or so. It sort of copied Bourne, because Bourne got in the gap left between Die Another Day and Casino Royale, for the most part. So Bond goes into space. Much like, some of the films anyway, it can't copy the book, as I say, in terms of its plot. And so there's a lot in Moonraker that's not in, it's nowhere near the book, really, apart from Hugo Drax. Even the woman becomes Goodhead and not Gala Brand. It's got your splashes of Mooresque humour, of course. And the trouble is, there's actually a half-decent film in it. In the pre-title sequence, the old PTR, you have 747 blown to bits when a shuttle is hijacked, and I think the Moonraker shuttle came out around about a year or so before the first space flight by Columbia, or at least around the time that, after, it would have been after Enterprise test flew. But either way, it's hijacked, the plane's blown to bits, and then Bond's in a plane, he's going to be murdered, is pushed out of the plane by Jaws, and Bond flies down, does a free fall without a parachute, so, but the stuntman was wearing one, obviously. It's one of the most daring stunts in a Bond film, laced with danger compared to some stunts, because obviously, you can't stop from falling. And then it's ruined by Jaws turning up. That's not necessarily, well, actually, no, Jaws turns out, he's going to eat anything, oh shit, it's like Spy Love Me. And then next thing you know, his parachute breaks and he flaps his arms with a goofy expression on his face, and he falls onto a circus tent, and that sets the tone for the movie. Bond is found everywhere he goes by the enemy, really. He, in Venice, they suddenly pop out the woodwork, Chang comes after him, they find him on the Amazon. It seems that every turn, at some point in the film, Bond is just found by the enemy constantly. And there's always, and yet there are reasonably interesting moments, you might say. Corinne's death is one of the most haunting scenes in any Bond film, when she's stalked to death by the dogs. It's a moving death, a terrifying death. Drax is not a bad villain, icily cold. His plot is is similar to Spy Love Me Stromberg in that he wants to repopulate the Earth, but he's going to do it above ground. He's going to drop biological warfare domes or whatever, and You obey me. And then you got... and then you've got them going into space, and it's like... Okay, but it's done in a logical way in the sense that Goodhead knows how to fly a shuttle anyway, but they have to go into space to stop Drax. How that space station was built, I mean, there's a lot of nitpicky things that I find with the film, like, you know, he shoots the guy in the tree that's going to kill him in front of Drax, who has put the man up there, and they look at each other and Bond walks off to go home, whereas, you know, when Corinne turns up 5 seconds later, she's hunted to her death. I mean, I guess Drax felt the need that if his shooter disappeared, was shot in front of him, well, it would be a bit... But then surely, if that's the case, you want to get rid of Bond, just shoot him anyway. You know, you got a bunch of guys that could shoot Bond, and then obviously 008 would come out. I mean, if you're worried about killing Bond, then why put the man in the tree? Just and the witnesses are there that would have been, I don't know. And then Chang stalking Bond through the streets of Venice wearing all that clobber, and no one stops him. He's carrying a samurai sword. Oh god. And presumably in this world, it's not uncommon for shuttles to be flying up, because Drax has, what, 5 or 6 of them, and he nicks the Moonraker at the beginning, so because one of them developed a fault. So clearly, you know, in this timeline, space travel is the norm. If a billionaire can put his own shuttles in space, I would have thought. The scene where Bond comes out the centrifuge, excellent Bond moment, because he's shaken, properly shaken by what's happening. And I always like how he sort of grabs Goodhead's hand and pushes it away as if to say, no, I'm okay, mate, I'm a bloke, but also thank you. And Moore was not too bad in this after the horror that was Man with the Golden Gun. You know, it's all out the system now. This is Lewis Gilbert's last film he directed, and it goes when the space battle kicks off. And yet either side of it, as I said, that launch into space, model-wise, is one of probably my favourite special effects in a Bond film, I think, actually. One of them, anyway. Yes, it's model work. Nowadays, it will be dizzying CGI on the level of Ad Astra and Gravity, but for something that, you know, a Bond purist would have been watching it going, Bond in space? Fuck's sake, Ian Fleming would be spinning. But the launch sequence alone, I mean, like when you see on the TV screens all the shuttles taken off, and it looks like an actual launch, and the music is utterly top notch. It's just a shame that the film version isn't on a CD, because I'm pretty sure the film version is different subtly. And also you've got that kind of sound of wind playing as the Moonraker station appears, like from the shadows. Also, I like the shot of the shuttle with the sun behind it, lens flare. That's how you do lens flare, JJ. And then after the space battle, you have them going after the domes, and that again is not a bad scene, irrespective of the fact you have to disengage your brain halfway through the film. But there you go, and I don't see the point of bringing back Jaws, much like J.W. Pepper and Golden Gun. Both, of course, were probably brought back because they were popular with the cinema-going audiences, but they were both far too comical relief, either one. Now, J.W. was in Live and Let Die, but it felt alright because they're in Louisiana and he's a cop from Louisiana. Then, next thing you know, Jaws becomes ally. Fair enough. And of course, you've got the famous re-entry line at the end of the film. The filmmakers thought if that wasn't enough, at the very end, they go, it's filmed on location in, what is it now, Brazil, France, and outer space. So that's Moonraker. That's Roger Moore's 4th film, and now we're going to step into the 80s.